Professor Shaw, so was Judge Boasberg correct when he said turn the plane around?
So, I think that protecting the jurisdiction of his court...
That wasn't the question. Was he correct when he said turn the plane around, bring the guys back who harassed Ms. Romero, drove her out of her home, harassed her neighbors, shot her car? Was he correct when he said turn the plane around, bring those individuals back to the United States?
Based on the record before him, I think that was an absolutely defensible decision to have made in the time-pressured condition.
Ms. Romero, what do you think? You agree with the professor and with the judge? By the way, three of those individuals on the plane, Thomas Murillo Pena was wanted for kidnapping in Chile, was in the Denver area where they got him. Javier Vargas Lugo, attempted kidnapping, was in the Denver area. Nixon Azusa Perez was in the Aurora area. He may have been one of the guys who harassed you. Do you think that plane should have came back and brought those individuals back to the United States?
I feel safer every time a plane is loaded up and leaving this country.
Yeah, I was, the previous member from California talked about your riveting testimony. One of the lines you had in your testimony that got everyone's attention was, quote, there are no government programs to grant citizens temporary protected status from imported gangs in our country. Amen to that. There is none. And that's why this is so important that we move these people out. Mr. Speaker, should the judge who's been assigned the Hegseth case, Judge Boasberg, should he recuse himself from that case? And understand the standard, I know you do, Speaker. The standard is a reasonable person. Would a reasonable person believe that this judge can't be impartial with this case? And I would just remind you of a couple things. This is the judge who was on the FISA court when they granted warrants to spy on President Trump's campaign. This is the judge who handled the Kevin Kleinsmith case, an FBI lawyer who lied to the FISA court to help get those warrants and was given a slap on the wrist by Judge Boasberg. Not my words, the Wall Street Journal said it, because it was. He was a member of the bar, lied to a court, and got some probationary sentence. So now this judge said, turn the plane around, and now he's been assigned the Hegseth case. And I'm just asking, do you think Judge Boasberg should recuse himself from that case?
Look, I think this is a classic case where the Chief Justice should intervene. I mean, when you have a blatant, continuing record of prejudice, that judge should not be put in charge of a case. And as I said earlier, I'm not for going through the whole process of impeachment because I think it's at a practical level not possible. I am, however, for using the potential capacity of the Congress to simply defund, which Jefferson did and which clearly is possible. But I think what you just described is illustrative of why I use the term coup d'etat. You have a small group of people who believe that they have the right to arrogate rejecting the American people and doing whatever they want and cooperating with people who clearly were behaving illegally. I mean, that's one of the great tragedies of the last 6 or 8 years is it's the government which has been illegal. It's the FBI which was illegal. And how can you possibly have the rule of law when the people in charge of the law are illegal? I think in that case, you raise a very powerful point.
Mr. Larkin, should Judge Boasberg recuse himself in the Hegseth case?
Oh, I don't want to offer an opinion about a specific case that I'm, know only.
Do you think Judge Boasberg, based on what the Speaker just said, what I highlighted, think Judge Boasberg has a bias against President Trump and what he's trying to accomplish?
That's just phrasing the same question another way. I don't want to comment on opinion.
That's what we do in Congress. That's
yeah, I know.
A lot of time.
Yeah, when I was an agent, we did the same thing to see if we could get the suspect to say something different.
How about this, Speaker Gingrich? I think you're exactly right. We have three avenues to address this. We can do legislative, which we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to pass Chairman Iss's bill, which says that some district judge injunction doesn't apply nationwide. We may want to come back with another bill that says automatic appeal to the Supreme Court, what you've suggested, and we're looking at that very thing. Second, we have oversight, which is what we're doing now. We're highlighting how ridiculous some of these decisions have been. Yeah. And third, what you pointed out is we got the appropriations process. The ultimate power we have, Mr. Massey's right, the power of the purse, we should use it. We should use all three of those avenues to make sure the will of the people, we the people, gets accomplished.
Well, my personal view is that if you were to pass the ISA bill tomorrow, you just sent a very clear and compelling signal to the Chief Justice
Sure did.
that he had better get out of lecturing the Congress and get into managing the judiciary, or he's going to be facing a real crisis of the system and a real erosion of judicial authority.
That's the fundamental question. Who gets to make the call? Is it the guy whose name was on the ballot, or is it some bureaucrat? Is it the guy who got 77 million votes, or some district judge? The left always says, trust the bureaucrat, trust the judge. It's the Faucis, it's the Boasbergs who get to make the call. After all, they're the experts. They're smarter than we, the people. They're smarter than all us hillbillies in flyover country who voted for President Trump. Trust them. That's not how it works. We, the people, have the power. And you know what's interesting? For all the left's talk about democracy, they don't really trust it. Last summer, they kicked their nominee off the ballot without a vote, without an election, and they put someone else on the ballot without a vote, without an election. So of course they like some judge issuing orders or injunctions that stop the head of the executive branch from doing what he said he was going to do when he ran for the job and when the American people elected him. Think about it. Here in D.C., an elected judge thinks she's better equipped to determine military readiness than the commander-in-chief. An unelected judge in California thinks he gets to decide how many probationary employees work in the executive branch, not the guy who was elected to run the executive branch. Another unelected federal district judge here in D.C. thinks he gets to decide how long illegal gang member terrorists stay in our country, not the president, not the commander-in-chief. And now that same judge gets randomly assigned the Hexeth case, and he'll get to determine who the Secretary of Defense can talk to and how he has to do it, not the president. I think Americans see through this all. They know Representative Iss's legislation is exactly what's needed. They know who they elected, and they want him to make decisions that affect the executive branch, that affect our country. So I want to thank our chairman, Mr. Issa and Mr. Roy, for this hearing. I want to thank Mr. Issa for his bill. Mr. Schmidt, a member of our committee, who we put his amendment on that bill, which I think makes it even stronger. We passed that legislation 4 weeks ago. It's going to be on the floor tomorrow. It's going to pass the House. I want to thank our witnesses for being here. Ms. Romero, what you've went through, thank you for coming. And of course, Speaker Gingrich, for your half a century of service to the Constitution and the country, thank you for joining us. That is the question, though. Who decides? The individuals that we, the people, elect, or someone else?